Hello, please let me know in the chat box. Am I audible and the screen is visible to you all or not? Okay, so once again, a very pleasant morning to one and all. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to this session hosted by Shivi Forensics on the topic The Role of Pelvis in Sex Estimation Forensic Anthropological Insights. My name is Samiksha Kaurav and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Through today's lecture, we aim to explore the scientific relevance, anthropological methodology, and practical implications of pelvic structure analysis in forensic identification. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our esteemed resource person for today, Shivali ma'am. Ma'am is currently working as an assistant professor at Department of Forensic Science, Rayat Bhara University, Mohali. She brings with her a robust background in forensic anthropology and has significantly contributed to both academic and field applications in forensic science. Her approach seamlessly blends theoretical frameworks with practical application, making her an ideal guide for this subject. A gentle reminder to all the attendees, please keep your microphones on mute throughout the session and you may post your questions in the chat box. Without further ado, I now invite Shivali ma'am to begin today's session. Ma'am, over to you.
Hello, I'm audible to all.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, let's begin with the session. As according to the title, sex estimation from human pelvis. Firstly, we will discuss about some key aspects or key points about the sex estimation. Firstly, all of you know about what is anthropology. Anybody can tell?
Study of human remains.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Study of bones. No, that is osteology. Anthropology is basically study all aspect of the humans. Okay. Anthropos is Greek word which means man and logia is a Greek word which means study. It means anthropology is defined as a study of man or human to determine identity of a human. If we uh, collect or if we found any remain regarding to the human. Why it is used? Anybody can tell? Why we use anthropology, forensic anthropology? Yes, for identification purpose. Uh, there are also Big Four rule. Can anybody tell about Big Four? What is Big Four? Yes, which is Big Four are biological parameter factors in forensic anthropology. First is race or ethnicity, second is sex, third is age, and then stature and height. If we get any material, firstly we know about is it bone or not. There are some questions when we get any material, we have doubted that it is bone or not, it is related to anthropology or not. We have to answer the questions. Firstly, is it a material bone? Second, is it human or non-human? Third, is it modern? Cause of death, yes. And then fourth is which bones are present. Fifth, how many individuals are present. Sixth is race, seventh is sex, eighth is age, ninth is height, and tenth is individualizing features. As first question about skeletal remain as evidence is the material is bone. If we get any substance, any material, firstly in the mind is it bone or not? Because there are difference in structures due to their function. Firstly, is it human or non-human? After categorizing these parameters, when we come to the race, why race is important to identify? Can anybody tell? Place where they belongs to. Yes, place where they belongs to. There are three categories: Mongoloids, Negroids, and Caucasians. All three have different body structures. So before identify their sex or estimating their sex, we will know where is it. The bone is from which race? Is it Mongoloid, Negroid, or Caucasians? After that, we will yes, geographical region Mongoloid. Yes, Himanshu, that is correct. Then we come to the sex part. Firstly, we will discuss about the introduction, importance, then anatomy of the pelvis, morphological differences, and their limitations. Introduction. Estimation of sex is a crucial aspect of forensic anthropology. The pelvis is a reliable skeletal element of for sex estimation due to its sexual dimorphism. For the sex estimation, pelvis alone gives 95% of correct identification than other parts. All if we get all human remains, then it's a 98 to 99%. Why we use term sex estimation, not identification or determination? Can anybody tell? Why we are using term sex estimation, not sex determination? Can anybody tell me about this? No one? Like we can just guess because we estimate the bonds to the different percent and because we are not 100%. Yes, we are not 100% sure because we estimate time that is not correct. I'm asking why we use term sex estimation. Yes, that is not 100% reliable. Which technique is 100% reliable? Yes, DNA or fingerprints. That gives us 100%, which we use term identification, not estimation. For the sex estimation, is probably whether it is okay. Mehak Shukla. Sex determination is definite of the gender. Can you tell me about the difference between term gender or sex? They are the basic things we should know. What is the difference between sex or gender? Gender can have orientation. Gender in sociological term we use. Sex is a biological term. Okay. Yes, you are all correct. There are three sex conditions: male, female, or intersex condition. All of you may know about male and female and intersex conditions. Can anybody tell difference between them? How male, female, and intersex conditions are different from each other? Okay, as nobody knows. Do you know about sex chromosomes? Yes, yeah, the was basically depend on the reproductive aspects. Intersex condition is intermingling of sexual characters of either sex in one individual to varying degree, including the physical form, reproductive organs, and sexual behaviors. It results from the some defect in embryonic development. Okay, intersex is different, and LGBTQ is different aspect. So you may not confuse between that two aspects. Okay. Sexual yes, Hiral, that is correct. That's why intersex vary from yes. Mehak Shukla, you are correct. During the embryonic development, there are some defects which create disorders of sexual development. फर्स्टली क्या होता है कि गोनाडल सेक्स के रिलेटेड भी आपको डिसऑर्डर हो सकते हैं. गोनाडल सेक्स कौन से होंगे? Okay. It is defined as the chromosomal sex is normal and gonads are abnormal. For example, the gonadal agenesis. Okay. Gonadal agenesis में क्या होता है कि sex organs never develop in these individual. Nuclear sexing is negative. अब ये हो सकता है टेस्टिकुलर डायजेनेसिस हो सकता है आपको गोनाडल एजेनेसिस हो सकता है गोनाडल डायजेनेसिस हो सकता है गोनाडल डायजेनेसिस क्या होगा जिसमें एक्सटर्नल सेक्सुअल कैरेक्टर तो प्रेजेंट होंगे बट डेवलप नहीं होंगे एट द टाइम ऑफ प्यूबर्टी yes you are correct here do you know about the Turner syndrome or Klinefelter syndrome? Okay, can anybody tell in short what is Klinefelter syndrome or Turner or true hermaphroditism? Yes, analysis. So that are the basic things you should know about before starting this session. Klinefelter reproduction. Yes. In karyotype क्या होगा? XXY. You are correct, Mahek Shukla. So that are the basic things. For the term we are using sex estimation. We never say gender estimation, sex identification, or sex determination. We always use sex estimation term. Okay. As the pelvis is a reliable skeleton element for the sex estimation due to its sexual dimorphism. What is the meaning of sexual dimorphism? Can anybody tell? As I already told, not use term gender, it's sex. Yes, different for both sex. As females are adapted to birth, their sexual dimorphism is different from the males. Estimation of sex help in criminal investigation and identification of human remains. अब हम पढ़ेंगे कि इम्पोर्टेंस क्या है सेक्स एस्टिमेशन की. Why is it important? For the identification of the individual, It provides valuable information about the biological profile of an individual, which I already discussed. Big Four rule. Estimation of sex from pelvis is essential in forensic investigation, including criminal cases and mass disaster cases. Okay, then aids in narrowing down the pool of potential identities and contribute to overall identification process. Difference of appearance, no. Sexual dimorphism not refers to the difference in appearance. Phenotypic difference होगा between male and female. As somebody goes through its puberty and their hormonal changes occur. If he is a male but he likes to wear clothing like females, there is no effect in their sexual dimorphism. Okay, Hiral, do you understand what I'm saying or not? Again repeating, sexual dimorphism is the phenotypic difference between the male and female skeletons are refers to the sexual dimorphism. Okay, it generally refers to the shape and size difference between male and female of the given species. Okay, but sex of an individual is determined from his or her chromosomal structures. I already discussed about the sexual dimorphism. There are two techniques, qualitative and quantitative. As one is morphological and other is metric. What is morphological? It refers to the visual assessment of the shape of the skeleton elements. Examination of features and visual comparison according to majority rules. It means the difference are expressed on their absence or their presence. That is a qualitative. What is a metric? Metric method is difference are expressed in number. For example, limbs or femur. Both techniques are used for the accuracy. Combined, they give more efficient result. And can anybody tell me about the difference between qualitative and quantitative term? Anybody can tell? बताएगा कोई कि क्वालिटी और क्वांटिटी में क्या फर्क होगा? I'm asking what is the difference between quality of the sample, quantity of the sample in the term of sex estimation. Yes, quality refers to the type or kind and quantity is number. Can anybody tell which is qualitative and which is quantitative from morphological and metric methods? Particular data. Yes, Meg, you are correct. In qualitative aspect, we need training. It is all regarding to the subjectivity. It means what is written in the books or already present data. Morphology qualitative, yes. And it is a positive effect for comparative quicker. It is a more quicker than the quantitative. In metric, we need tools and it is a time consuming method. But as if I'm taking the measurements and other one is also taking measurements of the home, that's in speaking. तो क्या हो सकता है कि अगर मान लो कि मैं भी मेजरमेंट्स ले रही हूँ और कोई और भी मेजरमेंट ले रहा है तो कोई एरर हो सकता है उसमें, तो वो या तो बराबर हो या ऑब्जेक्ट जो भी यूज टूल्स कर रहे हैं तो वो अच्छे तरीके से करे जाए, जो भी उनके क्राइटेरिया है उनके अकॉर्डिंग। ये नहीं कि आप मैं 1 से ले रही हूँ तो आप 0 से लोगे, नहीं, तो उनके मेजरमेंट्स में डिफरेंट आ जाएगा। तो टूल्स का यूज करना आना चाहिए, सब्जेक्टिविटी आनी चाहिए, उस सब्जेक्ट का एक्सपर्टीज होना चाहिए। ठीक है, now we'll discuss about the anatomy of the pelvis. Can anybody tell me about the pelvis? Do you know about the pelvis structure? Okay. Nobody can tell. Okay. Pelvis is a bony structure located between the abdomen and the lower limbs. Used to distinguish between male and yes, you are correct. Smarna. It consists of two bones, each made up of three fused bones: ilium, ischium, and pubis. As you already. That is the ilium, ischium, pubis. That is sacrum, and that is coccyx bone. Yes, you are correct, Mansi. Pelvis provides support for vertebral column and protect the pelvic organs. Okay. The bowl or ring-shaped pelvis is formed by the sacrum and coccyx posteriorly and two hip bones anteriorly and laterally, as shown in the picture. Okay, that is a sacrum bone, that is the coccyx, and that is the vertebral column. That are the hip bones. This part is known as ilium, that is pelvic rim. Everybody, I am visible to you? Screen is visible or not? Then we move to next slide. What is ilium? Ilium is the largest and most superior part of the hip bone. It forms the prominent of the hip and provide attachment for the various muscles. Ilium also plays role in weight bearing and transfer force from upper body to lower legs. Okay. Yes, yes, you are correct, Himanshu. That are the morphological feature you were telling in the comment section. इलिम इज द लार्जेस्ट ऑफ थ्री सब डिवीजन ऑफ द हिप बोन। यानी इसका क्या मतलब हुआ कि ये सबसे लार्जेस्ट होगा जो पार्ट होगा इसका। इलिम इज कंपोज्ड ऑफ द सुपीरियर अला विंग, दैट इज अ विंग, and an inferior body. Body help form the acetabulum, the socket for the head of the femur, that is known as the acetabulum, where the femur bone attached. Okay. Protecting and projecting anteriorly and inferiorly from the auricular surface is which called the arcuate line. The hollow part is known as obturator foramen. That are the arcuate line, that is obturator foramen. The other marking of iliums are three arched line on lateral surface called posterior gluteal line. Glute means buttock. is the posterior superior iliac spines. Okay, this part. Next, we will move into ischium part. Ischium is inferior posterior portion of the hip bone. It is the largest bone of fossa coccyx. It forms the lower lateral portion of the acetabulum. It is formed by the superior body and inferior ramus. Body of the ischium is thick and massive mass of bone that lie between and behind the acetabulum. Extending from the body of the ischium is the inferior ramus which joins the pubis. Above the body, the ischial spine, which is located between the greater sciatic notch of the ilium and the lesser sciatic notch of the ischium. That is the lesser sciatic notch, that is the ischial tuberosity, ischial spine, greater sciatic notch. Has an ischial tuberosity, the bony prominence that bears the weight of the body when seated. यहाँ पे जो अभी हमने बात करी ischial tuberosity की, ये क्या करता है कि ये वाला पार्ट ये बियरिंग करेगा आपके बॉडी के मास को जब आप बैठोगे. Ischium provides support when sitting and bears weighting during activities such as walking or running. Next is pubis. Pubis is interior and inferior part of hip bone. The bilateral body of the pubis is joined together in front to form the symphysis pubis. What is symphysis pubis? That is symphysis surface. That part is symphysis surface. Symphysis pubis consists of pad of fibrocartilages. It is the joint between two hip bones. The inferior to the joint, the inferior rami of the pubic bone converge to form the pubic arch. Pubis is composed of a body and two rami. Body of the pubis is between the rami, anterior body of the pubic crest, where the abdominal muscle attach. On the body of the pubis, at the lateral end of the pubic crest, projection is called pubic tubercle. This tubercle is beginning of the raised line, the ischiopectineal line, which extends superiorly and laterally along the superior ramus to merge with the arcuate line of the ischium. Rami extending from the body of the pubis are the superior and inferior rami which joins the ischium and ischium. Anybody wants to ask a question? No one? Okay, then we move to the pelvic joints. What pelvic joint? The pelvis has several joints including the sacroiliac joints, pubic symphysis and hip joint. Sacroiliac joints connect the sacrum to the ilium and provide stability to the pelvis. That is the sacroiliac joints, which joins the sacrum and the ilium part. That is the ilium part, that is the sacrum, which joins by the sacroiliac joint. The pubic symphysis connect the two pubic bones and allow slight movement during the childbirth. That is a pubic symphysis, which is broader in female and narrow in male due to childbirth. Adaptability. The hip bones articulate with the sacrum at the sacroiliac joint and form the pelvic girdle. That is the hip bone joint articulate with the sacrum, and this part is formed as pelvic girdle. Here the acetabulum, where the femur bone is attached. What is sacrum? Now we will discuss about the sacrum. Sacrum is the triangular bone located at the base of the spine between the two hip bones. It consists of five fused vertebrae and forms the back wall of the pelvis. Sacrum connects the vertebral column to the hip bones and provides stability to the pelvis. There are four major openings: pelvic inlet, outlet, and two obturator foramen. That is inlet. This part is known as outlet. There are the two obturator foramen, one and two. Pelvic inlet is a superior opening that connects the pelvis to the abdomen. Here, the our body part, abdomen part, connects to the pelvic opening. Here is a pelvic outlet, which is inferior opening that allow passage of baby during. We show the second side once more. Okay, that in full pelvic brim, that is the sacrum part, purva, and if we alone see, that is the sacrum. Here the five fused. Can I move to the next slide, Purva? Do you understand? Or I again repeat about the sacrum. Okay. Discuss about the pelvic. Do you understand about the pelvic openings? Or shall I repeat? Okay. There are four major pelvic openings: pelvic inlet, outlet, and two obturator foramens. Okay. The red part is pelvic inlet. That part is known as pelvic outlet, and there are two obturator foramens, which we already discussed in the elimination part. Okay. Pelvic inlet is, okay, I'm repeating. Pelvic inlet is a superior opening that connects pelvic part to the abdomen. Here our abdomen part, that is a pelvis inlet. Okay. And next is the pelvic outlet, which is the inferior opening. That is the anterior, superior, and below one is the inferior opening, which allow passage of baby during childbirth. In female, it expands. That's why it is narrower in male and broader in females. Okay, so you understand? Again, I repeat. Urba. Do you understand or not? Okay. Then we will move to the difference. Now we will discuss about the morphological features. Now you already know about the pelvic structure. Now we discuss about the morphological features in male and female. In general appearance, male have massive, rough, and prominent muscular marking, and in female, less massive, slender, smoother muscular marking are not prominent. And this is the male, and that is the female. In shape, males have deep funnel and female has flat bowl-like structure. And shown in the picture, that is a deep funnel-like structure. There is a flat bowl-like structure. Previous slide once, please. Okay. If we generally seeing the male pelvis or female pelvis, males have a massive, rough, and prominent muscular marking rather than the females. Females have less massive cylindrical smoother and muscular markings which are not more prominent than males. In shape, males have a deep funnel-like shape, and females have flat bowl-like shape of the pelvis. Preauricular sulcus, which is the attachment of the anterior sacroiliac ligament, which I discussed in the ilium ischium part. In males, not frequent, narrower and shallower part. That is the preauricular sulcus. In female, that part is more frequent and broader deep, as you can see in the picture. In male, that is a narrower and shallower. In female, that part is broader and deep. This part. Okay. In males, acetabulum is larger, and in females, acetabulum cavity is smaller. In males, it is 52 mm diameter, and in female, it is 46 mm diameter. Then obturator foramen. In males, obturator foramen is large, oval, and base upwards. In female, it is small, triangular, and apex forward. That is the obturator foramen, which is larger, oval, and base upwards. As you can see, it is a bit triangular. Okay. In females, it is a smaller, triangular, and apex forward. Okay. This cavity, obturator foramen. Then we will discuss about the greater sciatic notch, which is narrower and deeper and smaller in males, and broader, shallower, and larger in female. That is a greater sciatic notch. This part, which is a narrower, deeper, and smaller. And female, it is a broader, shallower, and larger than male. Okay. Then we will move to the subpubic concavity and ventral arch. Subpubic concavity and ventral arch is absent in the case of male pelvis and present in the female pelvis. That is the ventral arch, present in females, absent in males. Subpubic concavity. There is a no concavity in male, and concavity present in female part. You can also see the acetabulum cavity here, larger in male and smaller in females. An ischiopubic ramus is broader in male and narrower in female part. That is the ischiopubic ramus. That part, which is broader in male and narrower in female. Next part is the subpubic angle. That is a subpubic angle, which is a V-shaped, sharper angle in male. It varies from 70 to 75 degree. And U-shape, ma'am, previous slide. Which slide? Yadva? This one? Which part you want to repeat? Issuepubic ramus. That part is issuepubic ramus. That is a broader in male and narrower in females. Now you understand? Okay. We will discuss about the subpubic angle, which is V-shaped and sharper in males, U-shaped and rounder angle 90 to 100 in females. Can anybody tell me about this subpubic angle? Why it is lower in male and higher in females? We already discussed. Can anybody tell me why it is V-shaped in male and U-shaped in females? Yes, you are correct. To facilitate childbirth. Because females are adaptable to give child and males are not adaptable to give childbirth. That is is screen visible? Are you able to see the subpubic angle? U-shaped and V-shaped. Okay. Then we will move to the next slide. Pelvic brim or inlet. In males, it is a heart-shaped, and in female, pelvic brim or inlet is elliptical shaped. Okay. That red part is pelvic brim or pelvic inlet. That part is pelvic outlet. The inferior part, this part, which is a smaller in males and larger in females. Okay, now we will move to the sacrum. As males have a longer, narrower, and evenly distributed curvature of the sacrum, and females have shorter, broader with the tendency to curve the sacrum, as shown in the picture. मेल्स का क्या होगा लॉन्गर होगा नैरोअर होगा और इवनली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड होंगे it is a curved slightly curved and males have not tendency to curve. Now we will move to the sacroiliac articulation. This part is known as sacroiliac articulation, which is larger, extends to 2 to 3 vertebra in case of males and 2 to 2.5 vertebra in case of females. As you can count 1, then 2, and 2 to 2.5 or 3. 3 vertebra, and here are 1, 2, and 2.5. Okay. That are the morphological features. For the metric method, Finney's method is commonly used and most popular method for the sex estimation in pelvis, in which ventral arc present in case of females and absent in the case of males, as we discussed in the previous slides. That is a ventral arc. present in the case of females and absent in case of female. And small infant may be very similar as with adults included. Nikita, I can't understand your question. Can you please describe it thoroughly? Okay. And in Finney's method, subpubic concavity present in female due to childbirth and absent in females. Medical legal aspects of the ischiopubic ramus: blunt and wide marking in males, sharp and narrow in females. From this method, 96% accuracy is estimated. First is subpubic concavity, ventral arc, and the third one is ischiopubic ramus. These three things, one, two, and this third one. It is known as the Finney's method, which is the most popular method, which gives us 96% accuracy in estimating the sex system. There are some limitations we will discuss. As pelvic sex estimation method not 100% accurate, there are some limitations. There are population variation which affect the accuracy of the sex. And in case of incomplete or heavily damaged pelvis, sex estimation may be challenging or impossible. Other factors such as age, pathology, and individual variation can also affect the accuracy of the sex estimation. Postmortem changes affect the pelvis and making sex estimation difficult. Here are the references. Thank you. Now you can ask the questions. Ma'am, in small infant measurements similar as Nikita, you are asking in small infant measurements were similar. Yes, but there are some differences. In infants, it is a slightly difficult to estimate the sex, but there are some measurement as we are discussed about the inlet, outlet, and other things are also present from where we can estimate the sex. Now you can ask the questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for delivering such an insightful and informative session. So, we will now proceed with the question and answer segment. Participants, you are all encouraged to share your queries via the chat box or by the raising hand. We will try to accommodate as many questions as possible in the time available.
How to identify the sex if only a fragment of as I already discussed about the elimination pupils part, if there three parts are or a sacrum is present entity, then we can identify the sex if important parts are present. If pelvic brim, if this part is present, ventral arc, ischiopubic ramus, or subpubic angle, we can estimate the sex. Okay. How accurate is sex estimation from the skeleton? It gives us 95% accuracy alone. With the combination of other long bones, it gives 98%. If we have all human remains, then it is 98 to 99%. What ask a question? What is the significance of the subpubic angle in the sex estimation? As I already subpubic angle, males are not adaptable to give childbirth, and females are adaptable to give childbirth. In males, there are V-shaped subpubic angle, and in females, it is rounder and U-shaped, as I already discussed. Pasta. This part is a subpubic angle, which is V-shaped in males and U-shaped in females due to their childbirth adaptability. Okay. How accurate? Any other question, Aditi, Asa, Himanshu?
Okay, so on behalf of Shivi Forensics, I would like to extend a sincere gratitude to Shivaji ma'am for taking the time to deliver such a valuable session. Ma'am, your insights have enriched our understanding of forensic anthropological practices in the context of sex estimation. To all our participants, thank you for your active engagement and presence. We trust today's session will contribute meaningfully to your academic and professional journeys in forensic science. All active participants will receive e-certificates. Stay connected with Shivi Forensics across our platforms for upcoming workshops, expert sessions, and academic initiatives. Thank you once again for your participation. Wishing you continued success in your forensic endeavors. This is
Uh,
Samiksha Gaurav signing off on behalf of Team Shivi Forensics.
Samiksha, 1 minute. Purva have one question. Any case
Yes, ma'am.
reference where anthropology plays vital role in investigation? Purva, there are so many cases. For example, in 2004, American husband and wife lived. That is the case of John Gardner and Margareta Gardner. I will discuss about the case. It is a case of the American husband and wife in 2004. Husband has a habit to do business but every time fails. He always takes loan but at one day his wife disagree with the husband but husband takes another woman to bank to get loan. Then his wife know about that. He killed his wife and only 4 mm and a 1 centimeter long piece found from the washing machine with some blood and tooth. From where, with the help of that piece, uh, we know about that he killed his wife. But now the husband killed the wife and throw it in the river. That is a very much important case which solved with the help of the forensic anthropology. And there is a one case also, 911 case, which is the most famous case. Okay. There are so many cases which are solved with the help of the forensic anthropology. That's play a vital role in investigation. Anybody have other question? Thank you, Yadva. I think nobody have other questions. Thanks to all for your patience to listen to me. I think nobody have questions. Stop.